Alrighty, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Get At It. Today is Friday, March 13th. It is 10 o'clock, and I am here with Dr. Bilal Ahmed, who has built Lylah Health, and he's going to be here to share a little bit more about it, why he built that, what his journey's been like, who he is, what his guides his soul, and how he gets at it. Bilal, thank you for joining us.
True, man. It's been a long time coming. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
It really has. Bilal responded to my first LinkedIn post about this where it was like, hey, starting a pod, who wants to come on? And he was like, yeah, I'm interested. So we had a phone call, realized he's not some serial killer weirdo or some bot trying to farm engagement. And I was like, all right, let's run this. And that was back probably closer to like January 10th. So about 2 months in the making here, and we've finally been able to sit down with each other. 14 episodes under my belt. I am well-versed in this podcast game now in comparison to where I was. Bilal, I'm very grateful for you to be here, and I'm going to ask you an icebreaker to get us going here. Now, I know you're a doctor. I know you're not in the business of pump and dumps and being able to drive up money. However, if I were to give you $50K right now, I'm going to say I'm going to invest $50K into Lylah Health and or into Bilal Ahmed. However you want to take that. How are you going to 20x that in a 60-day time frame to $1 million?
All right. I got two things that come to mind. One is gold futures. Given everything that's happening overseas, the Strait of Hormuz is currently inaccessible, and the price of oil is expected to go up to $200 a barrel. So gold futures sounds like a decent way to do it. The second way I'd do it is, have you heard of Auto Trader?
I
Or
have an
Autopilot?
auto trader. Autopilot, yeah, where you just kind of tail all these politicians or people who have insider information.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd pick the whale of choice, and I would essentially put in my 50K and let it make its automatic trades. I have a little bit of money in there, and I'll give you an idea. Over the last 2 months since I put a little bit of play money in there, it's up 55%, and I did nothing aside from let it make trades on my behalf.
Should I be stopping what I'm doing right now? Should we just go put some
We should
cash
stop
into
right now.
autopilot?
Yes, 100%.
We
Especially with the
actually
move
did.
to Miami.
We're in Miami right now, but we're in an Airbnb. What we can do is we can start balling out and we can go and get like ourselves a penthouse or something like that. Once we get Auto Trader and Autopilot going, we did have Autopilot on at it. We had a content creator who made content for them. So we are a little bit here connecting the dots with Dr. Bilal Ahmed, with Addit, with this conversation. And I think that's a cool way that you bring this up here with trying to do a little more rational type of 50K. Let's actually look at the world around us and let's not get stupid here. We're not going to go to the casino and bet it all on red or on black or on a number, even though that'd be electric.
Yeah.
However, you're a little bit more calculated in that regard.
Yeah, you gotta be. I mean, you wanna make a million, right? You gotta optimize your chances.
Totally. So, Bilal, tell me a little bit about this journey that you've been on with Lylah. Bilal, I know that you're working with your sister here on Lylah, which is incredible. I love that. My sister, honestly, she's far smarter than I am. So you're taking a page out of what I should be taken out of in that book. Always surround yourself with people smarter than you. And I know you're doing that.
Amen.
What was that journey like for you? Why'd you join the same team, even though, my sister and I, there's a lot of gridlock there, sibling clash, but you're a doctor, you're an entrepreneur, you're a family co-founder. Give it to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try to make it as short a story as possible because it's circuitous. It wasn't a kinda easy, simple route, or definitely wasn't a straight path. So I actually had the kinda idea for Lylah in the research setting back in 2017. Me and a few colleagues, one of whom is actually the head of our medical advisory board, started this prospective study when we were trainees looking at the gut microbiome. We wanted to see if there was any link between that and blockage in the arteries of the heart. So essentially what we did was we got rectal swabs on patients who were going to get a procedure called a left heart cath, where you directly go in, take a look at the arteries of the heart and see if there's a blockage. And then we did what's called 16S sequencing and metabolomics on that rectal swab. Essentially, it tells you what kind of bacteria grow in the gut, what the diversity is, and then what kind of metabolites or chemicals they make after they digest their food, and what kind of health action that could have on on the heart. And so we had kind of two arms, people who had cats and had no disease, and then people who had cats and had blockage and needed an intervention like a stent. We were 3 patients shy of fulfilling enrollment, and COVID hit. So funding dried up like it did for everything non-COVID related, got redirected into more noble causes since there was a once in a generation pandemic that was going on. But the idea stuck with me. I mean, to the extent where when I was a cardiology fellow or training for cardiology, we had these kind of seminal talks, really like stuffy. The entire division of cardiology sitting there with like white coats and like nice pressed ties, and you're giving them an hour long talk. And so I was talking about what's called residual risk, or basically, within cardiology, among medical specialties, there's probably the most research out there and the most calculated tools. Like we have so much information, we can take 8 variables and put them into a really good calculator that does a really good job. But there's still a gap despite our best efforts in terms of who we predict has disease and who actually gets disease. And that gap is called the idea is that something is causing inflammation, and inflammation is driving that residual risk. And so my whole, my marmalade was it's coming from the gut microbiome. It's a pretty new field.
Yeah, you're sipping that microbiome Kool-Aid.
Yeah, 100% I am. And, I'm looking at the studies and the Kool-Aid seems like it's, it's backed by what's going on out there in the science world. Fast forward a few years and I'm still like holding on to this idea, waking up at night thinking about it, and looking at it from research aspects. But then AI kind of came along. And so all of my research mentors were like, it's a cool idea, but we'd rather put our resources into like AI assisted echoes or reading like studies, basically try to help the robots take our job. My sister, in the meantime, was at a culinary institute in New York, about to finish culinary school, one of the James Beard Foundation institutes. And she calls me one day and she goes like, Bilal, I've got this idea for a business. We're from Pakistan and go every year because grandparents, aunts, uncles, everybody's over there.
Where in
And she
Pakistan?
in Pakistan, yeah. So
Where?
in 2 cities, Faisalabad, which is this kind of smaller agrarian place that's recently become a little bit bigger, and then Lahore, which is the
Lahore,
capital.
yeah.
Yeah. She had this concept of bringing true South Asian flavor in a healthy manner to shelves. Her favorite kind of drink was mango lassi. It's essentially like mango milkshake. It's a yogurt-based drink that you've probably had if you've gone to South Asian restaurant. But if you go to South Asian restaurants in the U.S., it's all oily. Like I at least associate it with like unhealthy stuff. Like I'm clogging my arteries actively as I'm eating this stuff, drinking this stuff.
It's so funny how that can kind of like, exactly what's going on in your gut microbiome when you're eating bad food. I don't.
Yeah.
Ignorance is bliss there for me.
Yeah.
However, proceed.
Yeah. So again, I'll try to keep it short, but grandma had a mango tree in her front yard. We used to drink mango lassi, still do when we go overseas, and it's really light, really refreshing. She calls me with this idea, and I was like, no, no, no. Let's take a step back. Light bulb went off in my head. I was like, yogurt is high in probiotics as already, and it's a good kind of bacteria. So why don't we take the two ideas, mine and hers, put them together? Boom! So it was true serendipity. Like I didn't think I was going to go the entrepreneurial route.
Well, look, someone that is a doctor, you kind of bite that bullet, right? Going to medical school. I'm taking all this schooling because look, my dad, he's a lawyer. He got his JD, he got his MBA. My uncle, he's a gastroenterologist at Northwestern Medicine. He did
Yeah.
his time, right? You don't do your time to then not have the guarantees and the benefits that come with all of that stuff. Like that's for me to do right out of college. Let me jump right into it. Give me all the risk in the entire world.
Yeah.
Which is why I really do commend what you're building and what you've built here. And this is an amazing thing. I want to hear a little bit more about probiotics, about this drink, about the benefits behind it, how you guys are going to be distributing this. Is this going to be a consumer packaged good? Are you guys trying to hit retailers? Is this a medical drink? Is this like the Danimals, but for your gut? Come on, give it to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you kind of a sense. So there's a lot of stuff out there, right? A lot of companies that are selling gut microbiome targeted therapeutics. I'll kind of lay out the big players. So Lylah Health has one SKU right now. We're coming out with 2 more in the next 2 to 3 months, but it's called Biotics Cubed. The reason is is there are three main biotics. There's prebiotics. To kind of simplify it, it's food for bacteria, essentially fiber. We can't digest fiber. Bacteria can. We're more bacteria than we are human cells. Literally, they outnumber us. The DNA from bacteria is 100.
Whoa.
So to think there's no kind of interaction in terms of health is insane, first of all. But anyways, prebiotics, food for bacteria, basically fiber. Probiotics, bacteria, connotation being good bacteria that are helpful for you. And then postbiotics, which most people haven't heard of, but it's basically the bacteria eat the fiber, digest it, and they shit out chemicals. And those chemicals are what actually do the health action. That's the postbiotic. So we have all three. Been a year formulating this and protecting my IP, going through literally the medical research. And I had a bar. I had the benefit of having kind of a physician lens. So I was like, I'm not using like mice studies because a lot of these companies use animal studies, and it's like we're not mice.
Do I
So
look like a mouse to you?
you don't. I don't. Do I look like a mouse to you?
Not at all.
Please don't lie to me. I mean,
A handsome mouse with good hair.
I appreciate that. I could say the same about you. So, I mean, in human studies with kind of the highest statistical bar, so randomized controlled trials is what they're called, looked at that kind of data and replicated the doses that worked in those trials. And so put those prebiotics, the probiotics, and the postbiotics, and what they're supposed to do or what we're targeting is GI symptoms, like IBS type symptoms, which most companies do. But the real kicker is I'm a cardiologist, so I capitalize on what I know. The studies show, and there are 13 randomized controlled trials that show this, that specific probiotics and postbiotics decrease your LDL or your bad cholesterol that blocks the arteries and actually leads to heart attacks and blockages by anywhere from 15 to 21% across that spectrum of RCTs. And so the fact that we have all three is a differentiator. The fact that it's targeting heart disease risk factors is a differentiator. I don't know anybody else in the market who's doing it. And it's a stick pack. It's like a crystal light stick pack flavored with not artificial mangoes, but chansa mangoes directly from Pakistan.
Wow.
You can pour it into, you know, milk. You can put it into Greek yogurt, which is my favorite. You can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah. This is really incredible because in the day and age where everyone's taking a GLP-1 up the butt or a peptide into the
Hmm.
arm, however they want to ingest whatever is good for their body, it's all about like the physical effect here, which is why like the product that you've created, remarkable. I actually love the synergy that you were able to come together with your sister. I didn't know she was in the culinary mind of it. You were the health mind, and now you come together, you couple that. And you're taking the world by storm with that, which is amazing. But what have you noticed be from a distribution standpoint? What's the effect that people want to hear with, it's like the take Ozempic and you'll get skinny, right? Like,
Yeah.
throw Lila in your Greek yogurt and you'll get blank.
Yeah. So it's a little bit of cognitive dissonance, if or at least I've found. People are savvier. There are more products in the market, and so they do a little bit more research. But at the same time, everybody kind of, sort of wants a silver bullet. They kind of want to be told, take it for 14 days and everything will be better. Nothing works that way. Like anyone who's selling you a silver bullet is lying to you. There's consistency, right? Like our whole mantra, internal and also external facing, is no bullshit ever. And what that means is, people don't know a lot about this space or don't know the right things. Like a lot of people haven't heard about postbiotics. So I have to educate them. Onus is on me, right? I'm the one selling the product and bringing it to the community. The second kind of layer of that is, we're not going to lie to you. We're not going to say like you can eat 3 cheeseburgers a day, sit on your couch all day, and then you take Lylah and you're not going to have heart disease or you're not going to have gut symptoms. You're
Gosh,
probably going to have
how
both.
cool that cell would be.
Yeah, it would be amazing. I mean, it would fly off the shelves. I've fought with my marketing agency on every single claim because it's like if it's not in a human study, to a certain standard, I'm not going to include it. I'm not going to say your skin's going to be clearer because I don't know. That's in like mice and rats. Like I can't say that ethically.
Right?
So yeah, I mean, that's what people seem to want. They want a quick fix. There is no quick fix.
No, it's like, how do I get a six pack in 30 days? Well, I'll tell you how to get one in a year.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It
Yeah.
takes some time. It takes work.
It's the hard part is people are looking for a solution that comes overnight where You are going to solve a problem, but it's not going to be like a one size fits all. It's not going to be something that is at that point. And what I've learned from an addict perspective, especially from the customer standpoint,
Yeah.
where you're just meeting people in different phases of their lives. Maybe one person's ready to pull the trigger. They've been waiting for this their whole life. They get it, they love it, they use it, and they keep buying it. Then the other side of the spectrum is someone that might never need it. They won't ever buy it. They never will buy in. And then there's some people that will just filter in the middle, however that might be. And the hard part is finding those early adopters.
Yeah.
Turning that first early adopter into 10, into 100, into 1,000, getting them to be advocates for you. Now you're at 2,000. Now you have mid adopters, right?
Yeah.
So the reason why I'm so curious is because I face that challenge today as a co-founder myself with a two-sided marketplace where one side's a lot easier than the other side. The one side where we pay people, obviously, is a lot easier than the side where people pay us to get insights from these people. But the reason why I'm asking is because I want to be able to see how we can get Lylah involved with figuring out what works for them. And the cool part is this is episode 15. I just finished editing and I will be posting Nathan Schatz, episode 14, University of Michigan grad, a year younger than me, in the microbiome founder type of innovation. He does a
No
swab
kidding.
your skin, send it in, and then he'll customize your skincare for you. Have you heard of Milieu?
I have not heard of Milieu, but I will look them up right after this.
How about I connect you
He's
guys right after
Yeah,
this?
that'd be great.
Because you mentioned microbiome. I'm already in the headspace of microbiome. Let me solve this and that. He had a flesh-eating bacteria in his arm when he was
Yeesh.
8 years old, saw, death at such a young age, and has since been able to progress to building a business, a company, a product that's able to fix the problems in society that revolve around improper skincare. A very commercialized medicine industry where you go in to see what's on the shelves, blindly trusting it, and next thing you know, you're still breaking out and you're spending $35 a month on a CeraVe, right? So
Yeah.
I
You said
love
his
what
name is Nathan?
Nathan Schatz, he's
Nathan
awesome kid.
Chess. That's amazing. I mean, that if it's the bacteria, I think it is. He literally escaped death. That's phenomenal to like
Yes.
turn that into a
He told
you know,
me like 30
pro
residents would come into his hospital room every single day, and they would pretty much see something that they might never see ever again in their career, and
yeah.
that is like flesh-eating bacteria in there. Thank God he's alive.
God, yeah.
I think that I'm going to get into this question, but I think that God works in very meticulous and intentional ways because Nathan would not have had that experience at 8 and then be 23 years old building something like this that has such a large ceiling on it. And you wouldn't be doing something the same. And so I'm going to ask you, what guides your soul?
Yeah, I mean, you kinda hit the nail on the head. Spirituality, religiosity, it's not it's kind of taboo to some extent these days, but yeah, I believe in God. I believe in a higher maker. I'll give you an example. I do complex cases for a living. That's kind of my training. Lost my first patient on the table in my career last week. And like my job is to prevent that from happening. So obviously I'm like reeling afterward, in the moment you have to kind of stay focused on what's going on. But all I could think about was, you know, God has a plan for all of us, right? This was something that kind of drives me in the sense that when I'm back against the wall and not sure what's going on, I kind of, look upstairs proverbially and I'm like, hey man, help me out a little bit. Like give me something. I think that, and then also this whole concept, or I like to tell uh, people who are listening when we're talking about this, like you can pray to God all you want, but if you run into traffic in front of an 18 wheeler, you're probably going to die, right? Like you have to do stuff also to like see the benefits, no matter what your faith is or what you believe. So, kind of getting the spiritual aspect to have the courage, for lack of a better word, to do what needs to be done. And then looking at the face of adversity and understanding that, like, the people who say you power through, and I've never had a moment in my life where I've second guessed myself. Complete horseshit. Like everybody is human, and unless you're a psychopath and have no emotions, uh, you have to kind of fight through despite whatever's going on internally. And as a leader, externally, you have to remain cool, calm, and collected. And that's a practice. The practice makes perfect thing. That's what
Un-
guys
I wholeheartedly. agree. And I think courage is the right word there because there's the mortal aspect of we got to do everything we can to survive, to evolve, to adapt, and to grow, because that's the purpose of every living organism, right? You see it under the microscope, and you see it when you just look around. We are doing everything we can to survive, whether that be as humans societally to just get a house and put a roof over people's heads, or it's a bug trying to find the right place to live and so they don't die.
Yeah.
And when we get to this level of thinking as humans, where we think critically and we can get so internal and think, and we can communicate to ourselves in our head and to other people, we can obviously have this communication and wherewithal to communicate with something that's a little bit more infinite, a one to one connection that guides us, right? It doesn't speak to us in our same language. It's in feelings. It's our gut feeling. If we want to talk Lylah,
Yeah, yeah.
oh,
I
we're
love
talking about, Lylah,
yeah,
distribution and spiritual. So I love that a lot, especially as a doctor. And I am curious because I've heard these stories about Einstein. You've heard these stories about Newton, where the closer they get to their thesis and understanding the three laws of physics or understanding the, theory of relativity, they believe in God more. They're like, I can't believe how perfect this is.
yeah. Amen. I mean, that's something that I've always found interesting is like you'll have a spectrum of these like super intelligent people, like IQ like 100 points higher than like either of us can ever achieve. And some of them are like Stephen Hawking style, right? Like not even agnostic, like staunchly atheist. And then you have people like Einstein who are like exactly what you said. There's such order and such perfection that there can't be like a higher power, whatever they want to call it. Newton was staunchly Christian. Yeah, he believed it until the end. And I see the same thing. It's like I see the human body, I see people die, I see, people live even in regular day-to-day life, and I find it really hard to look at the order and be like, there's not some sort of originator, if there will.
Some governing principle, some governing hand that allows people to move forward, to people to get stopped in their tracks. I do really think that there is a plan there, which is, for me at least, it allows to you get to worry about less. You get to focus on the controllables there a little bit more. And for me, it's not do or die as much as it is for you and your profession, but it's
Whatever, yeah.
it's still is a guiding principle in that regard. So I'm curious, with that in mind, how do you approach each day? How do you attack it? How do you proverbially get at it?
Yeah. So every day is a new day, right? This is a new thing for me, being an entrepreneur. So I'm going at it just like you are and trying to figure it out day by day. So what I find kind of most compelling on the topic of physicists, you familiar with Richard Feynman? I'm sure you are.
Familiar.
He's my favorite. If you get a chance, read his autobiography. Surely you're joking, Mr. Feynman. He won a Nobel in like quantum electrodynamics, was at Caltech for a while. He was the guy who figured out why the Challenger exploded. So like, he has impact on pop culture kind of all throughout, in addition to just being a brilliant physicist. But he has this great story that I'll try to condense as much as I can. He says, grandma slipped on ice and she broke her hip. And you tell people, and there's a spectrum of people. Some people accept that at face value and say, yeah, that makes sense. But what if you're telling an alien who's coming from a different realm with different laws of physics, who doesn't understand what's going on? So then you look at it from that lens and it's like a funnel. It's like, okay, she slipped on ice. Why is ice slippery? And then you look at ice and you're like, it's interesting that water, when it freezes, becomes slippery because other liquids, when they freeze, don't become slippery. And then you go deeper and deeper, and he goes into kind of the chemical aspect of it and the physics aspect of it. But the point is like, if you take your problem from yesterday, your fuck up from yesterday, and you say, hey, I'm explaining this or I'm learning this as a foreign being. Like, I don't understand what's going on. I'm really going to critique this down to the most granular level until I have no more questions. Then I'm equipped to not make that mistake again. And so that's how I get at it every day.
Whoa. Holy unique answer. That is incredible. But that's the type of way of growing forward, right? If you just stay in like this linear box of the thinking on the path, it's hard to look back when you're on the same plane. It's like trying to look how many people are in line when you're not tall enough. You're just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you can't see. You can't get the leverage or the high ground in that regard. It's really important to like separate yourself, take a gander. Where am I? How am I doing? Why'd that work? Why'd that fail? And oh, that's why the water is slippery when it's frozen. That's why grandma fell, and that's why grandma broke her hip for the third time.
Hmm.
And next thing you know, you aren't going to let grandma break her hip again because you realize that she should move to Florida because there's no ice down there.
Amen. Amen.
So that's a
Dude,
really, yeah,
you
go
told
on.
me there's going to be a dialogue. How do you get at it? What's your guiding principle?
All right. So I am a big believer, aligned with what you do, is that every day is a new day. However, I like to approach things with a similar, consistent structure, right? I want to know that when I hit the pillow at the end of at the end of the day, that what I did today got me forward, right? 1% better, 1.01 to the 365th, 37.01 or whatever. It's like we can get 37 times better in a year if we just have the guiding principle of just 1% better. And for me, sometimes it's a physical thing, it's a spiritual thing, or it's a mental thing. It could be all three, it could be two of the three. But last night, for instance, I was sitting there and I was honestly really impressed and happy, and I felt really good after the workout that I did just like 7 hours earlier. And I was thinking about the cardio that I put myself through and how strong I felt. And I wasn't going to sit there and reflect in my little memo notebook about how I tried distribution tactics today, and I don't really think that I got any closer, and I learned like, no. Why would I say linear on entrepreneurship? Why can't I'm not just a founder. I'm not just an athlete that works out. I'm everything, right? My identity of Drew Ruckham is somebody that does it all, and I do it at a high level, and I get better at it at a high level. And I was a catcher. I believe I could be a great caddy. My One of the most natural things that I was ever able to do was do a mound visit. And I'm sure you're familiar with baseball, where it's like, you call time, you go to the mound, and you discuss with the pitcher. And sometimes the pitcher is somebody that you need to go out there and you gotta, mother F them. Are you kidding me right now? Like, let's lock in. Someone that you gotta go cuddle and you'll be like, hey, baby, you're good. You know? And then there's places in between. You say a joke, you make a comment, you just do anything to get their mind back on the track to where it needs to go. And I think that it's really important to be your caddy, be your best catcher, be your best coach mentally, because why would I want to beat myself into the ground? Like, if I'm good at this with my co-founder and I'm good at this with everybody else, I should be great at this with myself. So I get at it by being a phenomenal coach, a phenomenal teammate to myself. I give myself the grace. I push myself. And I know that the man in the mirror, I'm starting with the man in the
In
mirror.
the mirror. Yeah.
That is the person that I'm going against every single day. And it's hard for me, right? Like, I'm in a space where it's Miami, it's flashy. I go on Instagram to post and I see ads and I see people doing better than me. But that's just a way to try. People get guided off their tracks when they look at something like that. When that's their track, I'm on my track. There are plenty of people that might be seeing what I'm doing and might be feeling a sense of I should be doing more, this or that. There's always a bigger fish. There's always a bigger boat. And I think that's important to stay internal. And then when you're staying internal, keeping yourself sane, and not just keeping yourself sane, but being a great teammate, you know? Like,
I love that.
that's
Yeah. You
look,
got to avoid the yips.
yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to get the yips if you're not a good coach to yourself.
And I did. I had the yips my senior year or my junior year of high school. I got benched after I made an overthrow on a drop third. And next thing you know, I'm playing my next game and I'm scared to death of making a throw that's anywhere outside of the catchable frame for that first baseman or whomever, because I know that my spot is not guaranteed. Was that a healthy thing for a 17-year-old catcher? Probably not. But it was it drove me. I was in the darkness, I got out of it, and I was able to grow from it. But this was before I really went down that path of greatness. I was just kind of doing whatever I thought was best, and it was difficult. Like, life is not easy, but when you pursue things that are challenging and you overcome them, it's gratifying.
Amen. Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. I mean,
All right, so let's
everybody experienced the yips at some point, but it's pulling yourself out that really counts.
hey, at least I didn't have a yips with like a scalpel, right? Like, at least
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
that would be
let's
dangerous.
avoid that. Yeah,
Yeah. Let's go to the bullpen. Let's go bring in the other guy. I'm not feeling so good today.
right. Yeah, yeah. It doesn't work that way.
So we've talked about this a little bit. I'm wearing the jersey right now, and we're talking about sports, how you get at it. I'm curious who you think the GOAT is.
Man, I'm going to give you a non-answer. I don't think there's a one GOAT. It's really hard for me to narrow down, especially, I mean, you look at basketball and the evolution, and you look at Wilt Chamberlain, for example, and then you look decades later, and there are all these arguments that, things weren't as competitive at that time. So he doesn't count. He's not part of the picture. Jordan, things were competitive at that time. So he's the GOAT. I thought that for the longest time. I was like, Jordan, 100%, doesn't matter. And then you look at LeBron, and yes, hasn't won with the same consistency or the same volume in terms of like finals, like the big win as Jordan, but he had a long or has, I guess, if he doesn't retire after this season, long, very storied career. I think there's a GOAT for every generation. That's my feeling, because you have to look at the landscape around you and who these people were battling against. I mean, some of the highlights of Jordan, you look at the defense around him, and yeah, there's their hands in there. It's a little bit more physical, but it wasn't the same kind of fast paced, like the type of schema that's used these days in basketball. Like that wasn't there. That mental game wasn't there as much, and he thrived and he did great, and he was the GOAT of that generation. But I think LeBron's the GOAT of this generation. I don't think you can narrow it down to one.
Yeah, well, you'd be right to say the GOAT of each generation, right? So you got the GOG, greatest of all generation, or greatest of each generation in that regard. And that's an interesting diplomatic answer there, but I think
Yeah,
it's very fair, right? Like you look at what Wilt was able to achieve, what Kareem was able to achieve, what Shaq was able to achieve, and you look at these guys and the fact that you're able to even quantify them. There is just a tier list, right? There's like when I go eat food with the Portnoy pizza reviews were so hot, and everyone's like, "Oh, I rate this or that." It's like, did I enjoy this? Did I not enjoy this? Did I not care? Like, why do I need to specify it down to like a numerical number? Like, I like this movie. Hey, like, I'm not the guy that leaves a movie theater and is like, oh my gosh, like, could you believe like the cinematography there, or like how
yeah,
drawn out that one monologue scene was? I'm like, I was entertained. Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah.
was.
Exactly. That's what it comes down to. Yeah, I agree with you, man.
That makes life a lot more digestible too. But look, for me, I like the GOAT debate, not for who is legitimately better, but in my definition of greatness, who embodies that the most? Who can I relate that to? And for people, it's different. For me, it's Jordan. I love the way the mentality was for him. Makes you believe that you can get better and you can win and you can learn how to win and you can never stop. And that is something that I aspire towards. I'm sure everybody does in that way, but it's
Absolutely.
I love sport.
No, I hear you. I mean, Jordan was my GOAT for the longest time, and then this kind of mentality came around where I was like, you know what, maybe we don't need the greatest of all time, but in the back of my head, there's a soft spot for Jordan. The '90s kid. I grew up watching him. I
Yeah.
can't I can't not associate him with greatness.
I think I was waiting for you to say like Saban.
Yeah, well, I mean, Saban is the GOAT. He is the GOAT, but I
See,
mean, in
okay. So now when we talk about college football coaches, now there's no
now
like
I
each generation.
no, there's no each generation. It is Roll Tide and it's Saban 100%.
Unreal. Well, that's all I got for you. I mean, we could talk here for a lot longer, but this was
Yeah,
incredible. Dr. Bilal Ahmed, co-founder of Lylah, probiotics, prebiotics, learn postbiotics, how it comes out, the chemicals, the bacteria. We are more bacteria than we are human cells. I learned more here. I went to school in this session, and I am sure every single viewer also did as well. So thank you guys all for listening. Bilal, thank you for coming on.
thanks, Drew. I really appreciate it. It was a great conversation.
I appreciate you.
All right, get at it, man.
See ya.